What is a drip irrigation system, really? I once stood in a garden center aisle asking myself that, staring at drip kits, soaker hose, and a wall of sprinklers, and left with nothing. I am Mikkel, and this is Term 2 of Garden School. Series 1 taught you how water behaves. This one, we build a garden irrigation system. Every build starts with the same decision: drip irrigation, soaker hose, or sprinkler. First, a quick look back, because you have earned it. 20 episodes on the science of water, and it boils down to a handful of truths you now own. Plants drink from the root zone and nowhere else. Evaporation taxes every drop you pour in the heat of the day. Deep and rare beats little and often. And water the soil, not the plant. If you followed Series 1, you already know more about water than most gardeners ever learn. But here is the thing. Knowing is not doing. Someone asked a big gardening forum how everyone actually waters their garden. The top answer was painfully honest. Rain when it rains, hose when it doesn't. That is the National Watering Plan. And WaterWise still reckon that around half the water we use outdoors is wasted, mostly through overwatering. You met that number in episode 1. It has not moved since. So this series is a different kind of series. Less why, more how. Over 20 episodes, we will build a proper watering system, piece by piece, from the tap to the far end of the garden, and a system gets designed from the end backwards. So today we choose how the water leaves the pipe. 3 tools, 3 homes. Let us meet the family. Right? Meet the 3 families. First, drip. A drip system is a web of narrow pipes ending in small nozzles called drippers, one parked at the base of each plant. Each dripper releases a slow and steady trickle, drop by drop, straight into the root zone of that one plant. Point delivery. Think of a taxi. 1 passenger, 1 door, no stops in between. Second, the soaker hose. A porous pipe that sweats water gently along its entire length, laying down a continuous ribbon of moisture in the soil. Line delivery. That one is the bus. It does not serve one address. It serves every stop along the route. And third, the sprinkler. It throws water up into the air and lets it rain down over a broad patch. Area delivery. A rain cloud you switch on. Point, line, area. That is the whole secret of this episode. Every corner of your garden wants its water in one of those 3 shapes. Match the tool to the shape and the water lands where the roots are waiting. Mismatch them and you are watering paths, air, and weeds. So let us walk the garden and hand each corner to its rightful owner. Start with drip, because most of this series will be built on it. Drip belongs wherever plants live as individuals. Pots and containers on the patio, grow bags of tomatoes and cucumbers in the greenhouse, courgettes and beans spaced out along their rows, a newly planted tree or shrub still living off its own root ball. Each of those is one thirsty customer at one address, and a dripper parks the water right on the doorstep. And notice something. Drip is Series 1, molded in plastic. Water the soil, not the plant. A dripper never wets a leaf, which matters, because foliage that sits wet for hours invites black spot and gray mold. That is a story for a later series. Slow beats fast. A dripper cannot pour faster than the soil can drink, so nothing runs off, even on my heavy Belfast clay. And because the water arrives slowly in one spot, it soaks deep, and roots chase water. Deep drinks build deep roots. That was episode 3, made permanent in plastic. The price of all this precision is fiddle. Drip has the most parts and wants the most planning of the 3, which is exactly why it gets the most episodes this series. Fair warning. Now the soaker hose. For plants that live as a crowd, picture my veg bed at the allotment. 40 lettuces, 2 rows of carrots, a queue of onions, all packed in shoulder to shoulder. Fitting a dripper to every single lettuce would be a weekend of fiddling and a bag of parts. Daft. Instead, a soaker hose lies down the middle of the bed and sweats along its whole length, and the entire queue drinks from one ribbon of moisture. That is the soaker's home ground. Dense veg beds, flower borders, a young hedge planted as a row of whips, anywhere the planting is a line or a mat, rather than a scatter of individuals. It has drips good manners too. Water goes to the soil, not the leaves, and it arrives gently enough to soak in instead of running off. And it is the simplest kit in the aisle. No nozzles, no fittings every half meter. Just a hose that leaks on purpose. One honest caveat before you buy 50 meters of this stuff. On a long run, the far end waters less than the near end. There is a whole episode on that trap later in the series. For now, keep each run modest and it will serve you well. Which leaves the sprinkler, and a myth that needs putting down. The sprinkler looks like the most efficient thing on the shelf. One gadget, no pipes to lay, the whole garden watered. Except that is not what a sprinkler does. A sprinkler waters a shape, a big wet circle, drawn over everything inside it. Plants, paths, weeds, the washing line, the cat. It cannot tell a rose from a paving slab, so it pays them all the same. And because every drop travels through open air, sun and wind take their cut before it lands. You remember that tax from Series 1. On a bed, a sprinkler soaks all the foliage as well, and you already know who enjoys wet leaves. Worse, it delivers a shallow sip everywhere instead of a deep drink anywhere. Shallow sips breed shallow roots. So when is a shape exactly what you want? When the plant is a shape, a lawn. Thousands of identical grass plants knitted into one carpet, roots all at one depth, covering the floor. Area delivery for an area plant, that is the sprinkler's honest home. Lawns and big even plantings like a wildflower patch. Its little cousin, the micro spray, earns its keep misting greenhouse benches and rockeries, though it loses more to evaporation than drip ever will. Everywhere else, the sprinkler is theater. Now, maybe this all sounds like farm kit to you. Overkill for a back garden, something for people with orchards and a tractor. Let me show you the post that changed my mind. A gardener with years in the soil wrote up what they would do differently if they started over. Ignore most of the advice they said and just do what works. And then this line, starting without irrigation was another one of my mistakes. Over 2,000 people nodded along. That regret is everywhere once you start looking. People carry watering cans down the garden for years of summer evenings before they spend one Saturday laying a line that would have carried the lot. Not because the kit is dear, but because nobody ever told them where to start. And the start is not a gadget. The start is the match. Water arriving in the same shape your planting grows in. Get the match right, and the cheapest hose in the shop will beat the fanciest kit pointed at the wrong bed. So let us make the match for your garden right now in 3 questions. Walk your garden corner by corner and ask 3 questions. Question 1, do you mow it? Then it is a lawn and it takes the sprinkler, the area tool for the area plant. Question 2, is it a crowd planted close together in beds or rows, veg beds, borders, a young hedge? That is soaker country. One porous line down the middle and the whole queue drinks. Question 3, is it individuals, pots, grow bags, tomatoes, a new tree, anything with its own root ball and its own address? That is drip territory. A dripper at every door. Those 3 questions sort nearly every garden in Britain. My own patch comes out like this. The little lawn gets the sprinkler. The allotment beds get 2 soaker lines. The greenhouse grow bags and the patio pots get drip. And here is the whole episode in one breath. Drip the pots and the fruit. Soak the beds and the rows. Spray the lawn. If you remember one thing from today, make it that. Stick it to the shed door. It will serve you better in the aisle than anything printed on the boxes. One snag before we finish. Almost nobody's garden is only pots or only lawn. You will end up running 2 or even 3 of these tools side by side, and they want completely different rhythms. A sprinkler finishes its shift while a drip line is still warming up. So here is the kit on my own tap, the Johgee 4-zone timer. One tap splits into 4 outlets, each on its own schedule. The drip lines take 1 zone. The soaker bed takes another, and the sprinkler gets its own early slot. The brains sit indoors and talk to the tap by radio, straight through the brick. And honestly, if your garden is 1 lawn and 3 pots, you do not need it. A 9-pound mechanical timer will do you proudly.